Hello everyone to the very first wehorse online festival. We are super excited and we are very pleased that so many of you are already here for the first session of the wehorse online festival 2020. It is our first time to host such an online event and we are blessed to have 5 brilliant trainers with us. But first and foremost, we have to welcome so many people from all over the world. We have people from South Africa, I've seen Joburg, I've seen Bloemfontein, Durban, then Australia, shout out to Melbourne. Then we have Sweden, Poland, so the Europeans are also with us. Yorkshire, I think also, and Scotland, Ireland, Canada, and also people from the States. So a very warm welcome to the wehorse Online Festival, and especially to you guys from the States, a happy belated Independence Day. And it is very cool that you join in now on our online festival. It is the very first time for us. We are hosting it. And we, that is wehorse.com. We are an online riding academy, an online video streaming service that has courses and tutorial videos across the entire horse world. So dressage, show jumping, eventing, horsemanship, and much more, with over 30 of the best trainers in the world, the likes that you see today here at the wehorse Online Festival. We have gathered 5 to bring you home, and we are very pleased to start off shortly with the first one, with Chris. Hello, Chris. Hello to Yorkshire.
Thank you, and hello to you all. I'm looking forward a little bit nervously to this presentation.
You will be totally fine. Chris is the British national coach for the eventers. But before we start with his presentation, I would like to tell you that we have an amazing raffle. There is one saddle at stake by Stübben. It is a handmade saddle that will be fitted personally for you. There will be a personal fitting. We have a helmet in the raffle. We have riding leggings, breeches, and over 20 yearly subscriptions for wehorse.com. So if you want to take part in this raffle, just stay on the wehorse Online Festival. It will be among all the participants in the last session where we have Ingrid Klimke. And if you want to increase your chances, you can do so by posting an Instagram story where you tag us. Our tag on Instagram, our handle is wehorse_en. So our Instagram handle at wehorse_en. We have now a presentation of Chris first, and then you can ask questions. If you want to do so, you can do on the bottom of the page. There is a little text that says, ask a question. And if you open this, you can drop your question there, and then the community can upvote. So we will ask the most upvoted questions at the end of each presentation. So if you do have questions, please drop them there. If you have any technical questions and so forth, our support team is at your side. They will be on the chat and available to help you out if there is anything not going correctly. So we are starting off with you, Chris, and we are very delighted to have you. We have been working with you now for quite some time. And of course, your great topic is cross-country and how to do it safely. And just to give a brief intro or a brief introduction about you, Chris, you are at the moment the British national coach for the eventers. You yourself had international success in eventing and dressage for your home country, for Great Britain, at the Olympics in Los Angeles. And you also won the Badminton Horse Trials in 1998. And you have been for a couple of years the national coach of the German team. And I think 2 years ago, you switched back home. This your introduction, and now we are very excited to hear your presentation about safely riding in cross country and how everyone, not only an eventer, can benefit from that. So over to you, Chris, and have fun with Chris Bartle.
Well, thank you for that great introduction. I always say, well, where does it start with this? And although we emphasize always safety, clearly that has to be the primary concern. On the other hand, no risk, no fun, and at the same time, we all want to win competition. So I always say that the goal is to get a clear round inside the time, but with a minimum risk. And so when I talk about what I sometimes call the system, I'm really trying to put across a system, a 1, 2, 3. As I often say, do things by numbers so that it becomes automatic in your mind. So that then as you ride on the cross country with different horses, some of course more experienced than others, that you'll have in the back of your mind a system, an order of priorities for riding the course and dealing with the situations which of course will arise when you're on the cross country. And fundamentally the system is all about having the good preparation for every question, and I therefore talk about where is the preparation point. Then we have the point where we have to say, right, let's do it, and say to our horse, yes, we can, and at the same time be in a position which gives the horse the best chance. And then of course after jumping the fence we have the landing and moving on to the next fence, and of course that might be coming up very quickly. On another situation it may be much further away. Here in this slide we see a picture of Ros Cantor, my British superstar from the World Equestrian Games. Every rider of course is what they are. Some are tall, some are short. We'll see in the pictures coming up soon. So a very tall rider like William Fox-Pitt. And here we have Ros Cantor, who is actually a very short rider, not very tall, but still very effective. So everybody can do it. You don't have to be tall or strong. It's about system. So if we then move to the next slide, we can then see, I always talk about division of responsibilities, because we can't do everything. The horse has a role to play, but yeah, it starts with the rider, because of course we have walked the course. We know why we're there. We know what we want to achieve. And over time, with more experience, you have a better chance to anticipate what might happen on the course in different situations, different fences, different questions. We build up a database of experience, and certainly when you're less experienced as a rider, it helps to walk a course with a rider or a trainer who has a lot of experience, and that trainer can tell you what, not just what to do, but what might happen in different situations. And I think that is just as important as receiving instructions on what to do. And of course, the important thing from the point of view of safety is that the horse arrives at the fence with enough impulsion, enough power, but at the same time in balance. And for each question, there is the correct speed. And I sometimes talk about that in relation to cars. We drive our car through the city. We have turns to make. We have transitions to do. We must be in the correct gear. When we drive out of the city onto the open road, we can maybe go faster. But even there, we sometimes have to change gear and come much more down to the lower gears. And so it's the same whether you're driving a car or riding a horse. We have to be in the correct speed for the turn, for the question which is coming. And that brings me, of course, to the last statement where I say in this paragraph, we have to be online. And what I mean there, of course, is that we have to approach the fence on the correct line, that the horse can see what it has to do, that that line also relates to where we are going to go next. And I often say that our horses must be just not online, but also in line. And what I mean by that is in line means straight. You know, it's very difficult to shoot a rabbit with a bow and arrow if the arrow is bent. So we need to have a straight arrow. We need to have a straight horse. And interestingly, at the beginning, I'm delivering this first presentation in this session and talking about cross-country riding. But of course, cross-country riding starts from dressage, and dressage comes from the French word to train. So it's all about training the horse. So we can't have straightness unless we train the horse to be straight. The other thing, of course, which we have to do is support the horse. And that is not just in a physical sense, but in a mental sense as well. I said before, yes, we can. We have to give the horse the feeling that they can do it. And so that positivity is really important at the same time as we are riding safely. And part of support is also physical. We have to be in the correct position for each fence and in balance. And position is the first way in which we communicate with our horse. The second, I always talk about it in this order, that we have our position says something to our horse. That's a position statement, I often say. And then our body language says, yes, let's do it. We're going this way, we're going that way, they're going forward, we're coming back. Our body language is the next important thing. And then, of course, we support that with the seat and leg, and finally the hand. And it is in that order we must communicate with the horse and not just work off the hand. And so all that relates to the rider being in balance. And we'll talk a lot about balance as we go through this presentation. And I also believe that the rider, when we talk about seeing a stride to a fence, it puts a lot of responsibility on the rider, and too much, in my opinion. So I often say, don't look for a stride, but be aware of the stride. Be aware of the distance, how close you are, how far away you are from the fence. Yeah, that awareness of distance is more important than taking over responsibility for finding a perfect distance. And then, of course, we always have to, as I've said before, what sort of things can happen in riding cross-country. The great thing about cross-country is it is over not just flat, even ground. It's up and down. It's three-dimensional in the best cross-country courses, not just two-dimensional. So that moving from field to field, going over mounds and down hills and into water and out of water, all those variations in the terrain add an extra element to the whole challenge. And it's so important then that in each of those phases, those ups and downs, that the rider remains balanced, and especially on the landing phase, because of course that is the next, the first stride to the next fence. So then we think about the responsibilities of the horse. It is a partnership in the end, but we are a partnership between horse and rider. And as we go through relationship together, if we can build up trust by the horse in us, the rider, that is going to help us in so many ways. Sometimes because the rider makes a mistake, but the horse says, don't worry, I know what I'm doing, I can get you out of jail. So, of course, a less experienced horse will not have maybe all that ability to solve a problem if you get it wrong. But on the other side, sometimes a really positive horse will, even though it's not very experienced, will have the ability, if he's correctly ridden, to find an extra leg to be able to deal with the situation. So going back to what I said just at the beginning, where does it all start? It starts with dressage. It starts with training the horses. And we have to train our horses to respond to our and recognize our position, recognize our body language, respond to our aids with our leg and seat, and finally, of course, be accepting the contact. And this goes back to the scales of training, which I'm sure you will hear many times from trainers, is the basis of all training, that the scales of training, at the beginning, the rhythm, the suppleness, the relaxation, and acceptance of the contact, and that doesn't just mean the rein, of course, and the mouth, acceptance of the contact with the mouth, but it also means acceptance of the seat and leg, all contact with the horse. And so going back to the responsibilities of the horse, when he comes then to the jump and you present him on the correct line and the rider is balanced, then it's down to the horse to assess the distance to the fence. We support his decision if we feel it's correct. If the horse, of course, is saying, get out of my way, I know what I'm doing, it's going to run to the fence, then the rider has to brace his position and control that excitement, that desire to attack the fence. So on the one hand, we want to allow the horse to assess the distance to the fence, but we don't want the horse to take over in terms of changing the rhythm or changing the speed just in front of the fence, just because they get overexcited. So there is a fine line in this partnership, but I always say in any partnership, there is always a senior partner. The senior partner is the one who sets the goals, decides when, where, and the rider, of course, has walked the course. So the rider has to be the senior partner. But at the same time, we have to trust our horses. They have a good pair of eyes. They can assess the distance. They can assess the height, width, and put the correct effort into jumping the fence. So if we now look at the various cross-country positions, first thing that strikes me as I look at this picture is Ingrid Klimke. I had many fun years working with Ingrid. We're going to see also in some of these videos Sandra Auffahrt, who also is in the German team and squad, and with whom I had a lot of good times training and supporting and so on. So it brings back fond memories when I see Ingrid's picture here on this slide. To come back to this the point of this slide, the cross-country positions. I used to talk about the 5 positions. Now I've modified slightly my explanation, and I've now just come back to 4 positions, but you'll see the logic shortly. Position number 1 is the racing position, I sometimes say. It's crouching down over the neck, it's for galloping between the fences, and it's for cruising sometimes between the fences. And as we go through an explanation of these 4 seat positions, there is for me always a passive seat and an active one. So for example, in the racing seat, the racing position, the leaning forward position, you can be just cruising between the fences, and you can sometimes be pushing the horse along and trying to go as fast as possible. And that you will see with a jockey riding in a race. There's a phase of the race where he sits against his horse, just keeping a cruising speed, and then he comes to the last few hundred meters to the fence where he's really riding actively and driving the horse forward. So there's an active and a passive component to each. So if I now talk about the light seat for control and preparation, there is a light seat which clearly means that you're out of the saddle with the weight in the stirrup and down into the heel, and the rider is balanced above that base of support, which is the stirrup, and the seat relatively close to the saddle, but at the same time not pressing on the horse's back. And there can be a passive light seat where you're just cruising between the fences, and yet a little bit more of an upright light seat than in the racing position. And then you have the working light seat, I sometimes call it, which is the preparation seat. That's where you are using this light seat in an active way, using your core muscles, your seat muscles, your gluteal muscles, as well as your abdominal muscles. You're using your leg to engage the hind leg of the horse. You're bringing the horse into balance, using your upper body through the contact down the arm to the horse's mouth. Normally in that control preparation seat, there will be quite a strong pressure to the mouth in order to bring the horse into balance and to bring the horse to the correct speed and length of stride for the question which is coming. And that's sometimes what I mean when I say we're changing gear like we do in a car. So that preparation seat is so important to work on independently of jumping the fences. I very often do this sort of training on a hill, especially out of a high tempo, coming downhill, and then bringing the horse into balance and closing the length of stride in order to bring the horse into the correct speed, balance, and length of stride for the question which is coming. And we'll see this shortly in some videos. And then we have the contact seat. Contact definitely is understandable by everybody. Contact means contact with the saddle. So we have, again, the passive contact seat, where we're just sitting still and not actively pushing with the seat. And we have the attacking, pushing seat. Now, what sometimes I find with my experience training riders, when they come in contact with the saddle, they end up pushing a little bit with the seat just to follow the movement of the canter. And if you have a very strong horse or a very motivated horse and you sit and you follow that movement, that can have the effect of lengthening the horse's stride when you don't want that to happen. So it's very important to be aware of when you do make contact with the saddle, you can do it in a way which is definitely driving with the seat. For example, the horse is hesitating, or you need to make up some distance, or you need to lengthen the stride, or you can come in contact with the saddle in a very still position. And we'll see that again in some of the videos. And then we have the landing position, the defensive position. And when I saw landing defensive, what's the difference there, active and passive? And what I mean there is that the normal landing position, where you land and move away from the fence, then of course you're landing with the weight in the stirrup, and the contact with the horse's mouth is soft, and you allow the horse to land and move away from the fence. And then you have another situation where you have a what if the horse is stumbling? What if the horse sees something on the other side of the fence? What if we're jumping into water? We have a situation here in this picture with Ingrid jumping. We can't see the water, but she's jumping a log into water. Then she becomes more in the defensive position than in a landing, moving away from the fence position. So we have an active, passive component there. So if we move to the next slide, we'll then see some action. And we have a super video from Sandra Auffahrt, Opgan Nouveau, and you see her very clearly here in the racing position, galloping between the fences. Then we come to a point where she comes clearly to the preparation point. There she slipped the rein, her body comes up, but she's still not making contact with the saddle. You can see here, body fairly upright, no contact with the saddle, pressure in the stirrup. And then just before the fence, she will touch the saddle because he's a motivated horse, a hot horse. Then we have the defensive position, jumping into the water. You could see this horse stumbled slightly. And then moving on to the next fence. For one moment, she went forward with the position in order to go on in the canter, and then became upright again. And just before this fence, we saw contact with the saddle again. Perhaps we can see this again. We see racing position. And as she comes through the trees and out into the open, then she's knowing the next fence is coming. So slip the rein, come up with the body, and close the horse from behind. Slow the tempo, prepare the horse for the turn. Then on a nice long rein, touch the saddle, squeeze with the leg, and allow the horse then to jump the fence. And then when we then see the approach to the water, still with the long rein, leaning into the turn, very secure in the landing, even though the horse stumbled. And then we have the correct line to the next fence, still keeping the rein quite long. We have a clear preparation point here for this question. And then we jump the corner, and then the turn to the oxer, where she is able to accelerate. So here we have another super rider, top class rider in the world, William Foxpitt. And we see the preparation point, the attack over the oxer, then keeping the horse straight to the brush. The next question is what I call a rhythm fence, so we don't have such an obvious preparation. And now we come to a fence where very clear preparation is required. So you see a very clear preparation without sitting in the saddle, then the contact seat, driving to the fence, in this case using an active seat to push the horse up to the fence because he's a little bit cautious. Coming down the hill, preparation, action, defensive sitting, landing with the feet in the stirrup. Here we have a rhythm fence, very little change. And then we have a clear preparation, and then a very clear positive driving seat, and followed by a good landing position with the weight into the stirrup. So in all those situations, we follow the system: preparation, attack, landing. I talk often about balance, and the important thing to understand about balance is, static balance is relatively easy. We can all stand perhaps on one leg and look at something in the distance and keep our balance. But standing on a moving thing, like you stand on the bus or the train, then everything is moving, and therefore you have to anticipate. And the same when you're riding your horse. You have to always anticipate a little bit. And in order to demonstrate how critical balance is, in my DVD, which I produced in cooperation with wehorse, I have an example using one pole across another pole and a small stone which I'm holding in my hand, and I place this pole immediately above the base of support, which is the under pole, and you'll see that the pole stays in perfect balance because the stone remains over that center point. And every time we move this very small stone, you will see how dramatic the effect is. If I move the stone just a few centimeters forwards, then immediately the pole starts to move down at the front. So of course, when you're riding a horse has muscles. He has a top line. He is able, if he's strong enough, sometimes to recover his balance, even if the rider is out of balance, and that helps us a lot. But if we move even further forward, and sometimes I see riders who throw the upper body forward over the fence, who throw the body forward in front of the point of balance, and you can see the effect there on this pole when the small amount of weight, which is this stone, moves significantly forward. So the more we can stay over the point of balance. Now, when things are moving at a much higher speed and your body is thrown forward by the horse slowing down in front of the fence, then you can see that can become a critical moment, and one where you will have to have a little bit of luck and perhaps immediately go to a safety seat to survive. So above all, try to stay just above or slightly behind the point of balance to give the horse the best chance at the fence. I say often, if we go back to the previous slide, I say often that balance and impulsion give the horse options. So, let's move to the next slide. I beg your pardon. We've just talked about that. We'll come back to that slide. So here we have the demonstration sitting before, during, and after the fence. So we can see here before the fence that Ingrid is coming in contact with the saddle, with a firm leg contact, giving the horse enough freedom of the neck to allow the horse to stay in balance and yet also to use the neck over the fence. And then during the jump, I should say, here we have the rider's balance above the horse's balance. The eyes play a big part in balance. So I'm always saying, look forward, don't look down at the fence, don't look down to the floor, and allow the horse the freedom of the neck. And then in the landing phase, making sure that the weight is into the stirrups, not pinching the knee. I often look at that the lower leg is at the vertical with the center of gravity above the feet, and keeping the shoulders back enough that you keep in control of the upper body, not to have what I sometimes call the nod on landing, which is when a rider's upper body falls forward in the landing phase of the jump. So if we go back now to the previous slide, we talk about the other aspect, which is impulsion. And if we move to the next slide, please. No, sorry, back one. Sorry, back a slide. I just talk about this. Yeah, impulsion is momentum compressed, is my explanation. Yeah, so momentum, the horse traveling forwards. Then we have the preparation point. We compress that momentum and bring the horse into a situation where he's in balance and has that power in order to negotiate the fence. If the horse is galloping and there is no compression, then the horse is what we sometimes say strung out, long in his frame, not got the hind leg coming under, the back is flat and maybe even hollow. Then the horse has less possibilities for solving the problem when he comes to the fence. So training our horses over time, as we talk about in the scales of training, the second scale, the working on straightness and impulsion. This is what we mean. It's a coiled spring that we're producing from our horse. So that then when we get to the fence, horse is in balance with power, has options. So we see then in this fence again with Sandra Alfard, we have a clear example where in the approach to this fairly technical fence, she's brought the horse into compression and balance, then is able to keep the horse very straight. She's staying always behind the point of balance, therefore able to keep the horse straight on the line. There's a slight drop on landing there, but all the time staying in balance behind the horse. And it's always good to see these videos 2 or 3 times to understand. Here we have another rider who clearly gets in front of the point of balance, throws the body forwards, the reins are a bit too short, and then is less able to keep control of the ride of the horse's straightness and balance. You can see how the horse lost his balance between the 2 elements. As he stumbled, he then ran through the out the shoulder, out the side door. And of course, then the rider is well in front of the point of balance and has no chance to recover. So that's a very clear demonstration of what can happen when the rider gets in front of the point of balance. So I talk a lot about the safety seat. And many years ago, when I started working with Team Germany, I produced a presentation similar to this, and I said that we must, as riders, have the heart of a lion and yet the seat of a pessimist. You know, we always have to say, what if might happen? What if this might happen? What if that? At the same time as we're trying to put across to our horses that, yes, we believe in them. Yes, we can do this. So keep 2/3 of the horse in front of you. The center of gravity should always be behind the horses. The position of the lower legs, look at the photographs that you get back from your eventing. See that your knees are always behind the toes, so the lower leg isn't swinging back. The lower leg should be parallel with the horse's front legs in the landing. And then the rider's hands under the eyes. Here you have a picture of Ingrid on Hale Bob. I always used to have to remind Ingrid, because of Hale Bob's way of going, that you had to have the rein a little bit longer than with her other superstar mare, Escada. And so this is a little reminder to me of what I used to say to Ingrid. Here in the other picture of the grey horse, Sandra, landing a slight drop fence, very clearly into the heel. So there is a very clear demonstration of the safety seat in the landing phase. And look at your pictures when you've been on the cross country and see that you can follow these rules. So we look then at the next slide. The important points to think about. Have the correct stirrup length. If you have the stirrups too long, it's very difficult to use the stirrup to hold your balance, to use the thigh muscles, the quadriceps, the gluteal muscles, the abdominal muscles, to bring the horse into the preparation for the fence in terms of balance, impulsion, length of stride. So very often I'm shortening stirrups for riders. Even for Ros Cantor, my little girl in the British team, I sometimes have suggested that she ride with the stirrup shorter. And it really does help in the balance. The length and management of the reins, very important. The ability to lengthen the rein and then shorten the rein. And this is where bridging the reins helps so much. And what I mean by a bridged rein is when you have two reins in one hand and one in the other hand. So that in principle, two reins in the outside hand, one in the inside hand as you're coming through a turn. It gives you the chance to slip the rein and then shorten the rein quite easily and quite quickly, which is important. Then I talk about the rider's eyes. It's so important, not just for anticipating and seeing where you're going, but for balance. And if you keep always your eyes up and forward and be aware underneath you, your eyes are fantastic things. They can not just focus on something, but they have a huge peripheral vision, so you can be aware of what's going on underneath you without looking at it. And so I'm always working on riders that they're looking forward, beyond the fence, to the next fence, not down at the fence, and certainly not down at the ground. And then to remember that balance is dynamic. So we have to always be anticipating a little bit and using our weight to help the horse by coming behind the point of balance when necessary. And also, I talk about lateral balance because through turns, we have to watch out that our body weight doesn't get thrown by centrifugal force to the outside, and then we become out of position. So we have to anticipate the turns to move across the saddle to the inside. So all these things happen really quickly. And we see here an example of jumping into the water in Aachen. We have preparation, the jump, and then slipping the rein and allowing the horse to jump away into the water. You can see how clearly Ingrid on Escada has slipped the rein here and has a very good landing position. Then she gathers up the reins, moves forward to the next element in the water, and then as she moves up to the next fence, she keeps the rein relatively long, stays behind the point of balance, and moves to the fence in a positive way. And it would be unfair if I didn't find a little detail to talk about with Sandra, superstar rider, world champion 2014. And here's one moment she went a fraction before the horse. Super upgun, he said, no problem, I'm going. But that's the situation where sometimes you can be riding the best horse in the world, and he certainly was one of the best horses ever. And like I say, won the 2014 World Championships, and yet something can happen where he chips in a stride and the rider can for 1 second be in front. So this is where it's so important to be anticipating a little bit. And to sum up my principles, I used to have for my Team Germany a motto that luck is where preparation meets opportunity, from the Roman philosopher Seneca. And so I've now shortened it. But at the end of the day, it's preparation means preparing ourselves, our own fitness, preparing the horse in terms of the training we do, not just at the fences, between the fences, not just do dressage in a dressage arena, but do dressage on the hill. It's very important. And then, of course, preparation for every question on the course from fence to fence after we've walked the course. So that is a very short explanation of what I call the system for riding cross country. And now I believe we're able to take some questions if any of you have any questions.
Unmute.
Yes, there are actually plenty of questions, but before we jump in, we would like to reference to the course we have with you. You mentioned the DVD. The DVD now has become video streaming, and Chris's top training course, it is the Safe Cross Country Training, where all the content that you mentioned is in there in step-by-step instructional videos, tutorials, and so forth. Also with additional course material. You can all find this on wehorse.com. And as a special, we have a coupon code out for all of you guys. Online Festival 2020. That's the coupon code. You also find a button at the bottom of the page in green. If you enter this coupon code, you can redeem it on the payment page, and then you get 33% off our yearly subscription. And now we jump into questions, Chris, and there are actually plenty of questions. So question number one, it has been asked by Angelina, and she asked, among other people that upvoted, so if you do have a question, please drop it in the Ask a Question section at the bottom of the page. There is a small window opens, and there you can ask a question. And the first question is, do you have advice how to achieve a more stable upper body for the rider, especially after the jump/landing?
Yes, there were two suggestions that I would immediately spring to mind. And one suggestion is about rider fitness. And so it's something which in my work with my most experienced riders, my squad riders, previously in Team Germany, now with the British team, I focus a lot on rider fitness. And so that rider fitness aspect involves working, you could say, Pilates, working exercises which build up core stability, core strength, as well as the muscles involved in keeping balance when you're landing from relatively high step. So that's the practical suggestion I sometimes make to riders, is on their own 2 feet to jump down from steps, starting at a low height and eventually maybe jumping from a meter high or even higher, landing into your feet with your eye on the ball, I often say, so that you get used to the idea.
Oh, there is an internet problem, as we see now with Chris. Let's see how we manage this. So Chris is in Yorkshire at the moment, and supposedly there was some bad weather. So we tried to get him back on as soon as possible. We have plenty of more questions that he's going to answer now. So we are very sorry that we just lost the connection. Ah, there he is back again, Chris. Not yet. He's yeah. So our team is now bringing him back on. We have a team of about 10 people in the background that is handling this. So we do have more time to ask questions. And after Chris, we will have Arian Aguilar on, and that will be super exciting. Then Anja Beran from Germany, and Linda Tellington-Jones from Hawaii, and Ingrid Klimke again from Germany. So that is our schedule for today. We are now working on bringing Chris back in. Our technical team is already in touch with him. So the first question has been, how do you have advice, or do you have advice how to achieve a more stable upper body for the rider, especially after the jump and landing? Then the second question, what is the best way to see a distance? Asked by Livia. So if you do have any more questions, please drop them here. Then the third one is how to prepare the horse at home to manage different cross-country situation. Yeah, that we will also cover. So I'm just hearing the internet is gone in Yorkshire. What's going on over there? We are trying to manage this. So Catherine, yeah, totally. Cross-country rider needs heart of a lion and the seat of the pessimist. That definitely they need. So we are just prompting Chris to get back in. Yes, he is connecting now. as I'm hearing now from the team. And yeah, it looks good. It looks good. So please stay on board. He will be back shortly. Drop your question, upvote questions to yeah. So we will have him back on shortly. Yeah, that's always the case. You know, we are having people from all over the world tuned into this live session, and we practice a lot. Of course, one thing that we cannot handle is internet connectivity on the other side. And we are trying our best to bring him back on. Yeah, Anastasia, great presentation. Amanda, totally. Yes, so please stay waiting. He'll be back hopefully shortly. We are trying everything. So he's being invited again. So sorry about that. You know, live is live. And he's now accepted our invitation here to come back on. Trying to see how it goes. Yeah, so we have Chris after that, Arian Aguilar. After Arian Aguilar, we have Anja Berand from Germany. And how long is today's presentation going to last? Yeah, very good question by Jane Jones. So each presentation is around 60 minutes.
And now I'm back again.
Chris, you are back on.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. Local internet problem. Have to unmute sound. Yeah, now you have me.
Yes. So is it? Oh, and off he goes.
Are you back again or not?
Yes, we can hear you. That is enough. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you too. Yeah, I just tried to bring the video back again, but I'm not sure where I can do that.
You don't need to. You don't need to. It's totally fine if you stay here with audio. At least we have you. Yeah, some people are mentioning that sounds like he's in the bathroom, but I assume you're not. You're
no, not in the bathroom. No.
Now it sounds like the bathroom again.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Chris, maybe we jump right into it again. We have been covering the advice of how to stay stable after the jump.
Yes.
And now, let's jump into the next question. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Absolutely, I can hear you. Yeah. If I could just turn on my video, it'd make life easier for you. But at the moment,
does he have maybe two windows? Do we have two windows open? Maybe close one.
Try that. It should not give me an option to open the video, but.
Okay, let's try it one more time. Let's see if we can close, re-invite you one more time. Felix, our technical guy here, will now remove you once again. And then we try to bring you back again, Chris, and we will make it happen. We have so many people from all around the world, and they really loved your, like Catherine, loved your presentation, Chris. Myerscough College, APC conference, yes. Angelina, thanks for answering the questions, yes. So we are really looking forward. We have someone from Ecuador, Karina. Hi, good to see you. So we are trying to bring Chris back in. He's
I'm back in, I think.
Yes, this sounds way better.
Is that better?
That's way better.
Not showing me an option to bring in the video. Now I'm on
yes,
video.
You are. Hello, back again.
In action. Okay, super.
So let's move to the next question. So the next question answered by, no, not answered. Livia asked, what is the best way to see a distance? It's a very broad question, but maybe generally speaking, because the presentation is not only addressing eventers, but maybe also hunters, people that are not so familiar with jumps. So what's the best way, how to tackle it to see a distance?
Yeah, well, I often say to riders, don't get focused on looking for a distance, but become aware of the distance. That means when we walk on our own 2 feet and we're walking over ups and downs and over up steps, for example, up the staircase, we don't look at every place where we put our feet. We are aware of where we are putting our feet. And so by training ourselves, and I often do this with riders, walking over a pole, over a cavaletti, and I say, don't look at the cavaletti, walk to the cavaletti, step over the cavaletti, over the pole, without looking at it. You become aware of it. And so as you're then working with your horse, starting over small fences, looking at some point in the distance, it might be a tree, it might be a post, it might be a sign, look into something in the distance, and at the same time, be aware of how close you are to the pole or the cavaletti, how far away you are to it, and then you will react with your body according to that awareness. Over time, you are able to then judge this even when you're jumping big fences. In fact, the top show jumpers, the top event riders, when they are looking at a fence, the fence is maybe at 1.60 meters high. Yeah, so they're already looking up and not down at the bottom. So by regular training, both on your own 2 feet and also on your horse over small fences, looking to a point behind the fence, you become much more aware of the distance without looking for it.
Okay, Olivia, I hope this answered your question. It is indeed a broad topic. Let's jump to the next one. It has been asked by Anka. And here the question is how to prepare the horse at home to manage different cross-country situations that eventually then occur in competition.
So yes, we talked in the presentation, I talked about the training of the horse, dressage on the hill, I sometimes refer to it, so that we bring the horse into balance in these undulating ground conditions. And then as we take the younger horses, of course, then they go to cross-country training. They must get used to seeing different things. Some horses are spooky, some are bold, some are nervous horses. The characters will change. And therefore, with some horses, you have to take them to many small training grounds where the horses get used to different types of fence, different colors, different types of ground. Sometimes you have horses who are nervous because the ground color changes. So all these different situations require a certain amount of training. And what I mean by training is experience that the horses are taken to those situations. And then, of course, through the dressage on the hill, and you're able then to adjust the balance, adjust the speed, adjust the length of stride, then you can bring the horse to the more technical questions in balance with impulsion on the correct line, and the horse follows the rider's body language in the turns to go from fence to fence. So there's many elements to it, and perhaps in my presentation I make it all sound too easy, and of course it's focused there on riding horses which have got past what I call the baby stage. But every horse starts as a baby, every horse starts with no experience, and therefore has to go to these training grounds where they build up experience.
Wonderful. I hope, Anka, this answered your question. Now we move on to the next one. Natalia asked, what is the better exercises or way to prepare a horse and make his psychological side stronger so it will become more stable?
Going back to what I just talked about, building up the horse's confidence and experience, in setting the challenges for that horse appropriately, so that over time you build up a partnership with your horse where the horse trusts that, first of all, what you're asking them to do, they can do, that they trust the ground conditions, that they trust that the rider is not going to interfere with their jump. This is building up the horse's confidence. And of course, there are some horses which by nature are very confident, very bold. They say to you, get out of my way, I know what I'm doing. And then there are other horses who need more support, more, I call it sometimes hand holding. And what I sometimes refer to there as hand holding is where you have a firmer leg contact, perhaps even a firmer rein contact, to say to the horse, I'm with you, I'm supporting you, yes, we can. And that is sometimes an aspect which riders perhaps don't give their horses the confidence in the right way, in the sense that perhaps that they can chase the horse at the fence to get him over it, and then the horse comes out of balance and has a bad experience. So a lot will depend on the experiences that the horse has through their training. Nothing will ever in life go perfectly. There will always be moments where the rider, make a mistake, the horse makes a mistake. But over time, we want to build up the horse's experience and ability to handle these situations. So that can only come through practice. Practice
and preparation.
Yeah.
So the next question has been posted by Joy. And the question is, how do you judge the distance on a stride with different sizes of horses? It also relates to the question we had before, and the general question about distances. Here now with the twist towards the different sizes of horses.
Yeah, this is a very interesting question. The exercise I come back to again and again with riders is for themselves to become aware, and for the and to be aware with their horses, to be able to calibrate the canter stride. That's the expression I use. Calibrating the canter stride. That means getting to know what your horse's canter stride is, and then being able to adjust that length of stride in balance and maintaining the impulsion. So a very simple exercise which I set up in my arena would be to set up a small cavaletti, perhaps a pole on the floor or a plank or something like that, exactly at 20 meters apart. So we have three small elements, 20 meters apart. And we come to that in a balanced canter with sufficient impulsion, not too close, not playing careful. And we go down that distance and we count the number of strides between the three elements. And if we find on horse number one that it has a relatively short stride, perhaps that horse finds 6 strides very comfortable. But then you ride another horse who has a big canter, and he finds that distance of 20 meters actually very comfortable on 5 strides, but very short on 6 strides. And perhaps you have another horse who has such a big stride that even 5 is a short distance. The horse wants to go on 4 because the canter is so big. Equally, I have seen horses who can do 7 strides between. So there's a huge variety of possibilities there. And so what, first of all, we want to do is to recognize what stride our horses have by nature, and then to start saying, okay, now I'm starting with a 6 canter. I want to up the tempo a little bit, lengthen the stride slightly. We do it on 5 even strides between the elements. And then can we go between the elements on 5 strides between the first 2 and then 6? So we can close the canter having opened it, or the other way around from 6 to 5. So that is a way of playing and calibrating your horse's canter stride. So you're aware of what stride they naturally have. Then you train the possibilities to increase the length of stride and to collect the horse into a more close canter for extra strides.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chris, very much. I think we are running a little out of time, so thanks to everyone that submitted a question. Really appreciate it. And I would like to thank you, Chris, for having you on. All the best to Yorkshire. I hope the COVID-19 situation is calming down a little, and stay home, stay safe as always. And thank you very much again to our users. Apologies for the technical things, but we managed quite well. And thank you, Chris.
Well, thank you, Christian. And I wish everybody who's been joining in to this presentation, all the very best with their horses. Stay safe, stay healthy. And I hope we will meet somewhere around the world eventing, and you can come and tell me that you listened to this presentation.
Wonderful, Chris. Thank you very much. And for everyone, we have a short break of 2 to 3 minutes, and we'll be back on in session number 2. You can just open the drop down with the schedule, or go on the link our service team is posting now to the second presentation. It'll be by Arian Aguilar on horsemanship and trust. So stay tuned, a very short break. We'll be right back.